Hello. Hi. I am Kristen. I'm the director of the Island Free Library on Block Island, and this is my daily program for adults, short story program for adults called Frankenstein Tea. I don't have any tea made for me up here. I wish I had a little tea, but I don't. I'll go down and get some tea. I hope you have tea. It's, once again, I am reporting from Block Island that it is gray. It is a gray day. There it is, gray once again. Maybe it's just the time of day when it's gray over here. I don't know. So I feel like it's not always gray, but boy, it's 3:00 on Block Island and it's gray. It is Friday, January 22nd. I think I have a story picked out. I just spent a little bit of time looking for one, and maybe the one I picked I liked, but I don't have to like it, right? That's the one of the premises of this program is that I just read to you, right? You decide what you think of that story, what you think of that author, what you think what is he saying, or what is she saying? What are they saying? Today I'm going to read Raymond Carver, which is why I started with he saying and using the male pronouns there. Raymond Carver, definitely a well-known short story writer. I've definitely read one thing by him before on the program. I don't know if I've read more than one, but the one that I might have read two. One that I read, I think is he's at the, he goes to the fish camp. And his wife isn't with him, and he meets some like bully boys across the river there. Do you remember that one? I think he's like in Oregon or something, and the snow comes, and he's having a little bit of a different experience because his wife isn't with him. But I don't know if his wife is dead or if she just didn't come. I can't remember that part. So that was one that I read. And then I think I read one about a gas station or a diner. They pull up to a diner. That was a good short story. That was another. And I know I have a book of his short stories up here. I think it's called Fire. I'm not sure. I can't put my finger on it right now. So maybe I've read a few Raymond Carvers. I'm going to read another today. And I know I haven't read you this story. So it's going to be Raymond Carver today. And there's my dad. Hi, Dad. How are you? I wasn't here yesterday, Dad. I don't know if you logged on, but I had a mainland day. I did a quick trip to the mainland, and quick meaning that the ferry schedule has changed the Thursday schedule. So it's quick for Block Islanders on Thursday. And I have to confess, I've been crabby about that. I have been saying how it's not fair to Islanders. That's not enough time. I had to switch my appointments. The woman I had an appointment with had to switch other people to accommodate me. I was really crabby. And I didn't get everything done that I needed to. I thought I had, and I totally forgot. I had a major errand that I had to do, and I didn't do it. I didn't remember till today. And that's why, old time Block Islanders make lists, and a list might be a good thing for me. But it was kind of nice to get home early and have it be daylight, and not spend any more money on the mainland side, and just get home and just do a few errands. So I was crabby, and then I realized it had pluses, but of course I didn't get everything done that I needed to. So that's my mixed bag about yesterday and why I wasn't here. And I apologize for not recording something and getting it up there, but it snuck up on me. But I'm here today, and I'm going to read. And as I said, I'm going to read Raymond Carver. He lived from 1938 to 1988. His first line of his bio here in this book says, "Of the writers in this anthology, Raymond Carver is one of the very few to have devoted himself to the art of the short story. To have devoted himself, in a sense, to the art of dramatically impacted brevity. In discussing minimalism as a mode of fiction, Carver spoke of his practice as a form of realism in the Anderson-Hemingway tradition, the gradual accretion of meaningful detail, the concrete word as opposed to the abstract or arbitrary or slippery word. I don't know that word, accretion, accretion. I should have looked it up to know how to say it. I didn't know I was going to read you the bio. All right, let's see if I can get through this story. I've pre-read some. I just had to move the camera a little to get the book on the table. I think I'm still good. I pre-read most of it. I skimmed it real quick just now. Let's see if I can do it. Raymond Carver. Are these actual miles? Fact is, the car needs to be sold in a hurry, and Leo sends Tony out to do it. Tony is smart and has personality. She used to sell children's encyclopedias door to door. She signed him up even though he didn't have kids. Afterward, Leo asked her for a date, and the date led to this. This deal has to be cash, and it has to be done tonight. Tomorrow, somebody they owe might slap a lien on the car. Monday, they'll be in court, home free, but word on them went out yesterday when their lawyer mailed the letters of intention. The hearing on Monday is nothing to worry about, the lawyer has said. They'll be asked some questions, and they'll sign some papers, and that's it. But sell the convertible, he said, today, tonight. They can hold on to the little car, Leo's car, no problem. But they go into court with that big convertible, the court will take it, and that's that. Tony dresses up. It's 4:00 in the afternoon. Leo worries the lots will close. But Tony takes her time dressing. She puts on a new white blouse, wide lacy cuffs, the new two-piece suit, new heels. She transfers the stuff from her straw purse into the new patent leather handbag. She studies the lizard makeup pouch and puts that in too. Tony has been 2 hours on her hair and face. Leo stands in the bedroom doorway and taps his lips with his knuckles, watching. You're making me nervous, she says. I wish you wouldn't just stand, she says. So tell me how I look. You look fine, he says. You look great. I'd buy a car from you anytime. But you don't have money, she says, peering into the mirror. She pats her hair, frowns. And your credit's lousy. You're nothing, she says. Teasing, she says, and looks at him in the mirror. Don't be serious, she says. It has to be done, so I'll do it. You take it out, you'd be lucky to get $300-400, and we both know it. Honey, you'd be lucky if you didn't have to pay them. She gives her hair a final pat, gums her lips, blots the lipstick with a tissue. She turns away from the mirror and picks up her purse. I'll have to have dinner or something. I told you that already. That's the way they work. I know them. But don't worry. I'll get out of it, she says. I can handle it. Jesus, Leo says. Did you have to say that? She looks at him steadily. Wish me luck, she says. Luck, he says. You have the pink slip, he says. She nods. He follows her through the house, a tall woman with a small high bust, broad hips and thighs. He scratches a pimple on his neck. You're sure, he says. Make sure you have to have the pink slip. I have the pink slip, she says. Make sure. She starts to say something, instead looks at herself in the front window and then shakes her head. At least call, he says. Let me know what's going on. I'll call, she says. Kiss, kiss. Here, she says, and points to the corner of her mouth. Careful, she says. He holds the door for her. Where are you going to try first? He says. She moves past him and onto the porch. Ernest Williams looks from across the street. In his Bermuda shorts, stomach hanging, he looks at Leo and Tony as he directs a spray onto his begonias. Once, last winter, during the holidays, when Tony and the kids were visiting his mother's, Leo brought a woman home. 9:00 the next morning, a cold, foggy Saturday, Leo walked the woman to the car. surprised Ernest Williams on the sidewalk with a newspaper in his hand. Fog drifted. Ernest Williams stared, then slapped the paper against his leg, hard. Leo recalls that slap, hunches his shoulders, says, "You have someplace in mind first?" "I'll just go down the line," she says. "The first lot, then I'll just go down the line." "Open at 900, he says. "Then come down. 900 is low blue book, even on a cash deal." "I know where to start," she says. Ernest Williams turns the hose in their direction. He stares at them through the spray of water. Leo has an urge to cry out a confession. "Just making sure," he says. Okay, she says. "I'm off." It's her car. They call it her car, and that makes it all the worse. They bought it new that summer 3 years ago. She wanted something to do after the kids started school, so she went back selling. He was working 6 days a week in the fiberglass plant. For a while, they didn't know how to spend the money. Then they put $1,000 on the convertible and doubled and tripled the payments until in a year they had it paid. Earlier, while she was dressing, he took the jack and spare from the trunk and emptied the glove compartment of pencils, matchbooks, blue chip stamps. Then he washed it and vacuumed inside. The red hood and fenders shine. "Good luck," he says, and touches her elbow. She nods. He sees she is already gone, already negotiating. "Things are going to be different," he calls to her as she reaches the driveway. "We start over Monday. I mean it." Ernest Williams looks at them and turns his head and spits. She gets into the car and lights a cigarette. "This time next week," Leo calls again. "Ancient history." He waves as she backs into the street. She changes gear and starts ahead. She accelerates, and the tires give a little scream. In the kitchen, Leo pours scotch and carries the drink to the backyard. The kids are at his mother's. There was a letter 3 days ago, his name penciled on the outside of the dirty envelope. The only letter all summer not demanding payment in full. "We are having fun," the letter said. "We like Grandma. We have a new dog called Mr. Six. He is nice. We love him. Goodbye." He goes for another drink. He adds ice and sees that his hand trembles. He holds the hand over the sink. He looks at the hand for a while, sets down the glass, and holds out the other hand. Then he picks up the glass and goes back outside to sit on the steps. He recalls when he was a kid, his dad pointing at a fine house, a tall white house surrounded by apple trees and a high white rail fence. "That's Finch," his dad said admiringly. "He's been in bankruptcy at least twice. Look at that house." But bankruptcy is a company collapsing utterly, executives cutting their wrists and throwing themselves from windows, thousands of men on the street. Leo and Tony still had furniture. Leo and Tony had furniture, and Tony and the kids had clothes. Those things were exempt. What else? Bicycles for the kids. But these he had sent to his mother's for safekeeping. The portable air conditioner and the new appliances, new washer and dryer, trucks came for those things weeks ago. What else did they have? This and that, nothing mainly, stuff that wore out or fell to pieces long ago. But there were some big parties back there, some fine travel. To Reno and Tahoe at 80 with the top down and the radio playing. Food, that was one of the big items. They gorged on food. He figures thousands on luxury items alone. Tony would go to the grocery and put in everything she saw. "I had to do without when I was a kid," she says. These kids are not going to do without, as if he'd been insisting they should. She joined all the book clubs. We never had books around when I was a kid, she says as she tears open the heavy packages. They enroll in the record clubs for something to play on the new stereo. They sign up for it all, even a pedigree terrier named Ginger. He paid $200 and found her run over in the street a week later. They buy what they want. If they can't pay, they charge. They sign up. His undershirt is wet. He can feel the sweat rolling from his underarms. He sits on the step with the empty glass in his hand and watches the shadows fill up the yard. He stretches, wipes his face. He listens to the traffic on the highway and considers whether he should go to the basement, stand on the utility sink, and hang himself with his belt. He understands he is willing to be dead. Inside, he makes a large drink and he turns the TV on and he fixes something to eat. He sits at the table with chili and crackers and watches something about a blind detective. He clears the table. He washes the pan and the bowl, dries these things, and puts them away, then allows himself a look at the clock. It's after 9. She's been gone nearly 5 hours. He pours scotch, adds water, carries the drink to the living room. He sits on the couch, but finds his shoulders so stiff they won't let him lean back. He stares at the screen and sips, and soon he goes for another drink. He sits again. A news program begins. It's 10 o'clock, and he says, "God, what in God's name has gone wrong?" and goes to the kitchen to return with more scotch. He sits, he closes his eyes, and opens them when he hears the telephone ringing. "I wanted to call," she says. "Where are you?" he says. He hears piano music and his heart moves. "I don't know," she says. "Someplace. We're having a drink. Then we're going someplace else for dinner. I'm with the sales manager. He's crude, but he's all right. He bought the car. I have to go now. I was on my way to the ladies and saw the phone." "Did somebody buy the car?" Leo says. He looks out the kitchen window to the place in the drive where she always parks. "I told you," she says. "I have to go now." Wait a minute. For Christ's sake," he says. "Did somebody buy the car or not?" "He had his checkbook out when I left," she says. "I have to go now. I have to go to the bathroom." "Wait," he yells. The line goes dead. He listens to the dial tone. "Jesus Christ," he says as he stands with the receiver in his hand. He circles the kitchen and goes back to the living room. He sits. He gets up. In the bathroom, he brushes his teeth very carefully. Then he uses dental floss. He washes his face and goes back to the kitchen. He looks at the clock and takes a clean glass from a set that has a hand of playing cards painted on each glass. He fills the glass with ice. He stares for a while at the glass he left in the sink. He sits against one end of the couch and puts his legs up at the other end. He looks at the screen, realizes he can't make out what the people are saying. He turns the empty glass in his hand and considers biting off the rim. He shivers for a time and thinks of going to bed, though he knows he will dream of a large woman with gray hair. In the dream, he is always leaning over, tying his shoelaces. When he straightens up, she looks at him, and he bends to tie again. He looks at his hand. It makes a fist as he watches. The telephone is ringing. "Where are you, honey?" he says slowly, gently. "We're at the restaurant," she says, her voice strong and bright. "Honey, which restaurant?" he says. He puts the heel of his hand against his eye and pushes. "Downtown someplace," she says. "I think it's in New Jimmy's." "Excuse me," she says to someone off the line. "Is this place New Jimmy's? Is this New Jimmy's, Leo?" she says to him. "Everything is all right. We're almost finished. Then he's going to bring me home." "Honey," he says. He holds the receiver against his ear and rocks back and forth, eyes closed. "Honey." "I have to go," she says. "I wanted to call. Anyway, guess how much?" "Honey," he says. 6 1/4, she says. "I have it in my purse." He said, "There's no market for convertibles. I guess we're born lucky," she says and laughs. I told him everything. I think I had to. "Honey," Leo says. "What?" she says. "Please, honey," Leo says. He said he sympathizes, she says, but he would have said anything, she laughs again. He said, personally, he'd rather be classified a robber or a rapist than a bankrupt. He's nice enough, though, she says. "Come home," Leo says. "Take a cab and come home." "I can't," she says. "I told you, we're halfway through dinner." "I'll come for you," he says. "No," she says. "I said, we're just finishing. I told you. It's part of the deal. They're out for all they can get. But don't worry, we're about to leave. I'll be home in a little while." She hangs up. In a few minutes, he calls New Jimmy's. A man answers. "New Jimmy's has closed for the evening," the man says. "I'd like to talk to my wife," Leo says. "Does she work here?" the man asks. "Who is she?" "She's a customer," Leo says. "She's with someone, a business person." "Would I know her?" the man says. "What is her name?" "I don't think you know her," Leo says. "That's all right," Leo says. "That's all right. I see her now." "Thank you for calling New Jimmy's," the man says. Leo hurries to the window. A car he doesn't recognize slows in front of the house, then picks up speed. He waits. 2, 3 hours later, the telephone rings again. There is no one at the other end when he picks up the receiver. There is only a dial tone. "I'm right here," Leo screams into the receiver. Near dawn, he hears footsteps on the porch. He gets up from the couch. The set hums, the screen glows. He opens the door. She bumps the wall coming in. She grins. Her face is puffy, as if she's been sleeping under sedation. She works her lips, ducks heavily, and sways as he cocks his fist. "Go ahead," she says thickly. She stands there swaying. Then she makes a noise and lunges, catches his shirt, tears it down the front. "Bankrupt," she screams. She twists loose, grabs and tears his undershirt at the neck. "You son of a bitch," she says, clawing. He squeezes her wrists, then lets go, steps back, looking for something heavy. She stumbles as she heads for the bedroom. "Bankrupt," she mutters. He hears her fall on the bed and groan. He waits a while, then splashes water on his face and goes to the bedroom. He turns the lights on, looks at her, and begins to take her clothes off. He pulls and pushes her from side to side, undressing her. She says something in her sleep and moves her hand. He takes off her underpants, looks at them closely under the light, and throws them into a corner. He turns back the covers and rolls her in, naked. Then he opens her purse. He's reading the check when he hears the car come into the drive. He looks through the front curtain and sees the convertible in the drive, its motor running smoothly, the headlamps burning, and he closes and opens his eyes. He sees a tall man come around in front of the car and up to the porch. The man lays something on the porch and starts back to the car. He wears a white linen suit. Leo turns on the porch light and opens the door cautiously. Her makeup pouch lies on the top step. The man looks at Leo across the front of the car and then gets back inside and releases the handbrake. "Wait," Leo calls and starts down the steps. The man brakes the car as Leo walks in front of the lights. The car creaks against the brake. Leo tries to pull the two pieces of his shirt together, tries to bunch it all into his trousers. "What is it you want?" the man says. "Look," the man says, "I have to go. No offense. I buy and sell cars, right? The lady left her makeup. She's a fine lady, very refined. What is it?" Leo leans against the door and looks at the man. The man takes his hand off the wheel and puts them back. He drops the gear into reverse and the car moves backward a little. "I want to tell you," Leo says and wets his lips. The light in Ernest Williams' bedroom goes on. The shade rolls up. Leo shakes his head, tucks in his shirt again. He steps back from the car. Monday, he says. Monday, the man says, and watches for sudden movement. Leo nods slowly. Well, good night, the man says and coughs. Take it easy here. Monday, that's right. Okay, then. He takes his foot off the brake and puts it on again after he has rolled back 2 or 3 feet. Hey, one question. Between friends, are these actual miles? The man waits, then clears his throat. Okay, look, it doesn't matter either way, the man says. I have to go. Take it easy. He backs into the street, pulls away quickly, and turns the corner without stopping. Leo tucks at his shirt and goes back in the house. He locks the front door and checks it. Then he goes to the bedroom and locks that door and turns back the covers. He looks at her before he flicks the light. He takes off his clothes, folds them carefully on the floor, and gets in beside her. He lies on his back for a time and pulls the hair on his stomach, considering. He looks at the bedroom door, outlined now in the faint outside light. Presently, he reaches out his hand and touches her hip. She does not move. He turns on his side and puts his hand on her hip. He runs his fingers over her hip and feels the stretch marks there. They are like roads, and he traces them in her flesh. He runs his fingers back and forth, first one, then another. They run everywhere in her flesh, dozens, perhaps hundreds of them. He remembers waking up the morning after they bought the car, seeing it, there in the drive, in the sun, gleaming. That was Are These Actual Miles? ? By Raymond Carver. Are These Actual Miles is vintage Carver, though written comparatively early in his career, and this wonderfully succinct tale, an entire marriage, an entire way of life, is given an emblematic shape in the lost car remembered there in the drive, in the sun, gleaming. This is the other Raymond Carver book I have, Fires. I think one of his most famous stories is Cathedral. I don't think I've ever read you Cathedral, but I know that I've thought about reading you Cathedral. And maybe I've read 2 or 3 things from this book. And when I was talking about the one where he goes fishing in the river, and I thought it was Washington or Oregon, that makes sense because I just read that he died in Washington. He had lived there for some time. He felt connected to Washington State. All right, everybody. Thanks for coming. That's Frankenstein Tea for today. I'll see you tomorrow at 3:00. Have a great afternoon. Mask up, wash your hands, keep your distance, eat your vegetables, sleep right, breathe deep, watch a little less TV, read more, and I'll see you tomorrow. Thanks so much. Bye. Peace.